Have you ever felt something strange when you looked into your pet's eyes? Have you ever paused, even for a brief moment, and been overcome by a deep, almost unsettling feeling, as if that look was more than a simple reflection of light? I'm not just talking about affection, that bond that is born between the one who cares and the one who is cared for, but something beyond that, something ancient. It's as if, behind their pupils, there's a silent longing, an old recognition, an echo of something the mind can't explain but the heart seems to know. Think for a moment. How many times, while stroking your dog, cat, or even that bird in the yard, have you felt that there was a silent communication, something inexplicable, a soul-to-soul exchange? It doesn't matter if you believe in reincarnation or if you see the world with more pragmatic eyes. The fact is undeniable. All of us, at some point, have had that intuition, that pleasant and mysterious shiver. And maybe you never told anyone for fear of looking foolish or not wanting to scratch the surface of what we understand as real. But deep down, you feel that there is something there, at the intersection between the human and the animal, something that defies reason. If this kind of feeling has ever touched you, even for an instant, I have a special invitation. Stay with me until the end of this video. What you're about to hear might not only answer questions you never dared to ask out loud, but it could also forever transform your view of the soul, of your pets, and even of existence itself. And so that this message can reach even more people, and we can build a community of seekers together, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and share in the comments if you've ever had that mysterious feeling when looking at an animal. Yes, tell me if you've ever felt that you were in the presence of something bigger. Now, imagine a scenario. It's night, the house is silent, you are alone, or at least you think you are. Your dog approaches, lies down beside you, and rests its head on your legs, eyes closed. But suddenly, it lifts its head and for a brief second, fixes its eyes on yours. You feel a chill. It's as if in that instant the barriers of time and language have dissolved. Your dog isn't just an animal. On some level you feel it could be someone you've loved before, someone you knew from past lives, an old companion visiting you through another body. How many times has this happened and you just let the feeling pass? How many soul reunions happen every day, hidden under the routine of life? What if what we feel isn't just imagination, but an echo of forgotten realities? What if that look from the animal living beside you, or the bird that lands on your window, wasn't just a biological phenomenon, but a secret message, a whisper from another existence? Think seriously. What if every encounter, every sudden and deep connection with a pet was actually a reunion, the return of an old soul, using a new form, a new body? Have you ever imagined that your dog or cat might have been in another life, someone who walked beside you as a human? Or maybe in a distant past you were the animal, and now you're returning the care. What would it be like to re-examine the entire history of your life in light of that possibility? How much longing, how many inexplicable affections, how many hidden meanings would emerge from the past? Can you feel sensations of déjà vu in your memory? That feeling of, I've seen this before, that inexplicable intimacy with a newly adopted animal that seems to have always been by your side? Or even more radically, what if the bonds we form with pets are spiritual pacts, alliances established between souls that promise to reunite, no matter the form? Is it a coincidence that your favorite animals accompany you during so many significant moments in life, joys, sorrows, victories, and triumphs? Is it possible that from the other side of the veil, before birth, you and that soul renegotiated a reunion so that, together, you could evolve, learn, and love in a new way? And what if, when we lose a pet and feel that pain almost as strong as losing a loved one, we are in fact saying goodbye to a soulmate, a millennia-old friendship crossing eternity? How many answers could these questions hold? How many mysteries might be hidden in the simple gestures of routine, in the shared silences at the beginning or end of the day? Why is it that sometimes a dog seems to understand your sadness more than any person? Why do certain cats demonstrate a contained wisdom, the patience of an old master? Have you ever wondered why there seems to be an emotional reciprocity? The animal feels what you feel, and you feel what it feels, as if they were two universes interconnected by something invisible. And what if All of this isn't just emotional comfort, but part of a larger system, a continuous spiritual experiment where souls travel, learn, and reappear to each other, defying time, species, and the boundaries of logic. Get ready, because the answers you're looking for might be deeper and more moving than you ever imagined. Now imagine that this intuition, this ancient and mysterious feeling, isn't just a figment of your imagination. What if I told you that over a century ago, there was a man named Edgar Cayce who dedicated his life to exploring and explaining exactly this phenomenon? Edgar Cayce, known worldwide as the Sleeping Prophet, was perhaps the most enigmatic figure in the history of American mysticism. A simple farmer with extraordinary gifts, Cayce was able to enter a deep trance and, in that state, access spiritual realities, medical diagnoses, and most importantly, visions about the soul's journeys, like no one had ever been able to. What's most intriguing is how his readings, which amounted to tens of thousands of documented pages, address with almost impossible detail the migration of souls across the universe, exploring not only past and future human lives, but also the incredible possibility of multiform incarnations. The human soul, animal, plant, mineral, all in flux. Within this ocean of revelations, Cayce affirmed, yes, animals have souls. Not only that, they also reincarnate. And more, there is a transit of souls between the human and animal kingdoms, rare but real. In Cayce's words, life is a golden thread that binds all creatures. And according to him, whenever we feel an intense and almost supernatural bond with an animal, we may, in fact, be in the presence of a familiar soul. Your dog might carry the vital breath or even fragments of a past human experience, just as you might have lived in the animal world before being born as a human. Cayce wasn't alone in his beliefs. Many ancient traditions, from shamanism to spiritism, speak of the transmigration of souls. But he went further, providing detailed examples, documented cases, and reading sessions in which, while narrating people's lives, he revealed that certain bonds with animals were in fact reunions of ancient souls. Imagine what that means. Maybe your first dog was, centuries ago, a person you loved. Maybe that cat that always appears when you're sad is a spiritual companion of millennia, taking turns living by your side. It's something that defies logic, but at the same time, it makes sense deep in your heart. All of this might sound too fantastical, like a movie script or an invented legend. But what if thousands of people over the decades describing dreams, meditations, and spontaneous regressions have witnessed inexplicable encounters with their pets, recognizing in them traits, gestures, and even impossible memories of lives that never existed in this time? Edgar Cayce challenged even his followers. Observe the gaze of your animal. Feel it. Ask. You will recognize something ancient there. Are you ready to open that door, to face who or what is actually sleeping by your side every night? Let me share a few stories. They aren't simple tales. They are portals to help us understand, in a tangible way, the magnitude of Cayce's teachings. Consider, for example, the case of Helena, a middle-aged woman, skeptical of the spiritual world, but deeply connected to the horse she inherited from her late father. Helena always felt there was something special in the animal's brown eyes, a mix of tranquility and introspective intelligence. One day, after weeks of intense mourning, she was walking her horse in the middle of a silent storm when the animal approached her in an almost human way, resting its head on her chest, exactly as her father used to do when he comforted her in childhood. Helena, moved, looked into the animal's eyes and, for a fraction of a second, swore she saw her father's same look of concern, of care, of an ancient tenderness. This story could be just another coincidence, but such accounts multiply throughout the world. Dogs that appear in people's dreams moments before saving their lives from a fire. Cats that, mysteriously, seek out the favorite places of deceased family members, adopting identical postures as if they knew something hidden. Parrots that imitate phrases they were never taught, but which were significant to loved ones who have passed away. And in even more striking cases, adopted animals who, at the moment of their first encounter, act as if they have known their new owners for ages, even in front of strangers. Let's look at an emblematic case recorded in an old diary. A grandmother, a strong woman with a sweet voice, always told her granddaughter, "If I ever need to come back, I'll come to be your angel, even if I can't speak." Years after her death, the granddaughter, now an adult and lonely, adopts a mixed-breed puppy. Over time, she notices that it has the strange habit of protecting her while she sleeps, of standing at the door like a sentinel, exactly as her grandmother had promised in life. And every time a problem seems to be approaching, the dog sits, stares fixedly at her, and makes a noise that echoes her grandmother's old call, a deep, comforting, inexplicable sound. Coincidence, or a reunion of souls? There are also accounts of young children who have barely learned to speak, but refer to their cats and dogs by the names of deceased family members, often without having prior knowledge of the family history. Parents are perplexed to hear their young children say that "Grandma is the cat now," or that dog at the park was my friend somewhere else, even if it seems chronologically impossible. It is these small windows of mystery, these flashes of the inexplicable, that challenge what we know about time, consciousness, and the limits of existence. Now think, how many times in your life have you had the sudden feeling that the animal around you was more than it seemed? How many gestures, looks, unique habits, impossible to learn in a single life, have you and your loved ones witnessed? What does this mean? What is behind all this mystery? Take a deep breath. Let these stories sink deep into your imagination. Allow yourself to feel. What if all of this is true? What if all your reunions, joys, and even losses are not random, but pieces of a cosmic dance, where each soul, human or animal, plays a vital role in your spiritual growth? Before we move on to the next level of this reflection, I want to make an invitation. Share in the comments if any of these stories resonated with yours. What was the most enigmatic moment you've ever experienced with an animal? Do you believe you may have reunited with an ancient soul? Write, like, subscribe, because the next parts of this video will take you even deeper into this fascinating universe, forever revolutionizing the way you see everything around you. Now I ask you to take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment if you can, and imagine the following. You are not trapped in this human form. In fact, you never have been. Your soul, it has already traveled paths where there were no words, only instinct. It has already seen the world through wings, paws, leaves, maybe even as a rock. Yes, a rock. For Edgar Cayce, the soul is a constantly changing spark. It learns, matures, and transitions. In his readings, Cayce revealed something as radical as it is beautiful. Reincarnation is not limited to the human experience. Souls can and often do live in diverse forms. He called this multiform reincarnation. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever considered that within every living being there is a journey vastly richer than the body suggests? That your dog is not essentially a dog, but a soul in a canine phase, learning about loyalty, unconditional love, and silent companionship? According to Cayce, a soul can indeed have been human and decide to experience animal existence out of an evolutionary need. Why? Because there are wisdoms that cannot be learned in the hustle and bustle of the human world. Because, sometimes, to understand the silence of creation, you have to live as something that lives without speaking. In his trance state, Cayce narrated the story of a soul that had been a Christian monk, and, after centuries of introspection and seclusion, asked to reincarnate as a swan. A swan, not as a punishment, but by spiritual choice to experience peace, the harmonious movement of water, free love, the low flight over the reflection of silence. Another account describes a soul that lived as a warrior, taking countless lives in inglorious battles, and that decided, thousands of years later, to return as a guide dog. Why? To understand, in its skin or on its paws, what it is to protect without harming, to lead with gentleness, to guide without dominating. Think about it. What kind of learning does a soul accumulate by moving through so many forms? What profound truths can be extracted from the experience of being a flower, wind, feline, or human? Consciousness in this universe is a river, never a stagnant form. But Cayce warned, not all souls take on animal or plant forms. These are rare but sacred choices. They don't happen automatically, but as part of evolutionary plans. Imagine, then, the affection you share with that cat might be more than simple domesticity. It might be a meeting between species, a mutual learning, a silent pact sealed between spirits. Perhaps in the grand fabric of the cosmos, the spiritual language of love is more fluent between non-human beings. Perhaps it is we, humans, who most need to learn from them. Have you ever noticed a strange behavior in your animal? Something completely out of the ordinary? A gesture, a reaction, a habit that seems bigger than it is? Think of that moment your cat appeared by instinct at your side, minutes before you received painful news. Or the dog that barked nonstop towards the door, just before the accident. Coincidences? What if they're not? A woman named Leticia narrated it like this. Every time I have nightmares about my father, who died 5 years ago, my cat appears on the bed, even with the door closed. He lies on my chest and stays there until I wake up. Always. How does he get in? How does he know? How does he understand that I need him at that moment? It's as if he senses the dream environment, as if he knew that something in me was wounded. Leticia is not the only one. There are thousands of similar accounts. Dogs that choose to lie down in the exact spot on the body where a tumor was developing, days, even months before the problem was diagnosed by doctors. Parrots that repeat the names of loved ones, even though they never learned those names. And even more mysteriously, those moments when the animal looks into the void, but it's not an empty look. It's fixed, prolonged, as if it sees something you're ignoring, as if the invisible presence of another being, perhaps a spiritual one, is there, and the animal, being sensitive, perceives it. Have you ever experienced this? Try to remember a specific situation right now. That dog that, out of nowhere, stopped walking towards the street and pulled you back, and seconds later a speeding car passed by. That cat that always lay on your grandmother's pillow, before and after her death, as if guarding her, as if evoking her. Are they just good instincts? Edgar Cayce said that animals perceive the vibrations of the soul. In a way, they can even recognize the vibrational pattern of a specific consciousness, the same way you would recognize a beloved song just by its melody. Imagine, your animal may be, every day, confirming the presence of something your heart feels, but your mind refuses to see. What if they are guiding us, protecting us? Not as simple companions, but as spiritual entities in service. Not as animals in the way we classify them academically, but as teachers of subtlety, masters of presence, instructors of the soul. Edgar Cayce called the most connected animals pure sparks of divine humility. They didn't need to speak. They demonstrated. Through their actions, their calmness, their spontaneous joy, often in contrast to the chaotic world we live in. Perhaps, and just perhaps, it's time to ask ourselves, who, after all, is taking care of whom? Is the animal living with you there to complete the healing you didn't know you needed? From now on, never look at your pet the same way again. Never again see it as yours, because he or she is not just a creature. It's not an accessory to your routine. According to Cayce and many sages before and after him, every animal is a sacred incarnation with its own lessons to teach. If reincarnation is a school for growing spirits, then yes, animals are not our students. They are our masters. And like any good master, their lessons are practical. They teach us with their bodies, with their presence, with their silence. Think about how many times you came home exhausted, the world weighing like lead on your shoulders, and were greeted by an explosion of unconditional joy. No demands, no expectations, just pure joy for your existence. You didn't have to be interesting, pretty, or successful. You just had to be. How many humans are capable of that? Think of cats, in their hours of contemplation, in the meticulous turns they make before lying down. Who do you know who allows themselves to rest with such solemnity? Who observes the world without haste, like a feline on a windowsill? And the birds that sing even when locked in cages, that, despite all the limitations imposed by humans, continue to emit beauty. What human being is capable of that? If you start seeing these beings as evolutionary entities, you will understand something crucial. They may be enacting, before you, the qualities you need to develop. Simple love, the purity of the present moment, loyalty, honor, attentive observation, surrender to the present moment, and there's more. According to Cayce's accounts, the bonds of love between living beings create karmic marks. That means, if you abuse, exploit, or ignore an animal, the damage doesn't end with it, it reverberates, just as a loving caregiver or an honest home reverberates blessings. Everything you do to a living being, especially those who depend on you, comes back, not as punishment, but as learning. The way you treat your animal can become the way the universe treats you, with care, with respect, with sensitivity. Imagine if we discovered tomorrow that that horse that dies in a rodeo was the soul of an indigenous healer who was reborn to teach compassion and was silenced by the violence he fought against. Or that that monkey exploited for selfies in zoos was once a man who created poetry on the banks of the Ganges. Wouldn't it be time to reconsider who we are? Cayce warned, every soul once awakened sees unity and understands, to harm one is to harm all, to love one is to unite with all. And so, my friend, if you've understood this far, something has already changed inside. Something silent, perhaps, has begun to transform. Because the next time you find an abandoned dog, a sad cat, an animal look that echoes pain, you will hesitate, you will feel, you will remember, this soul has walked before, and it may have come to you with a purpose. If all this has touched you, if it has caused at least a spark, comment here. Which animal changed your life? Which one healed you? Which one do you feel you knew even before you met it? And if you haven't done it yet, now is the time to subscribe to the channel, give your like, and if possible, share. Because in the next parts of this video, we're going to take this conversation even further. We will move on to the cosmic, moral, and spiritual implications of this new paradigm. What happens when we realize that all life is connected by invisible threads, carrying a divine echo between all forms of existence? Wait for the next part. It will change you forever. Breathe more attentively. Now that you're beginning to perceive the magnitude of what is being revealed, the inevitable question arises, but what if it's true? What if, in fact, the animals around us are souls on a conscious journey? What if the ox on the farm is more than a body destined for slaughter? What if the cow you see on the road was once, one day, a sage, a poet, a caregiver? What changes in you in the way you eat, relate, and live? Here's the point where spiritual comfort meets ethical challenge. Cayce warned, the collective consciousness of humanity depends on how we treat the smallest and most humble among us, including animals. He said that, where there is domination without compassion, there the densest karma is planted. Think honestly, how do we deal with animals on this planet? We lock them up, exploit them, slaughter them, and domesticate them for convenience. What if all these actions seen as normal within the system are in reality spiritual wounds that bleed slowly into the unconscious of all humanity? It's not about guilt, but about responsibility. What would we feel if we knew that the chickens confined in mechanical farms are souls that at some point in their evolution were caregivers to our ancestors? What would happen inside us if we understood that that street dog we ignore might be, for the umpteenth time, trying to find its spiritual home? And what about marine animals captured just for pleasure? Ethically, this vision proposed by Cayce demands a reinvention of the way we exist in relation to the other, and other here doesn't just mean the human being. Why were we taught that only humans are spiritual subjects? This separation, this hierarchy between souls, is perhaps the biggest ideological mistake of our civilization. And this is where we enter an expanded spiritual territory. Every soul matters. Every soul feels. Every soul learns, regardless of the form it wears. In practice, this means that an act of cruelty against an apparently irrelevant being energetically affects the very soul of the one who commits it. Just as pure kindness, the kind we perform without witnesses, without interest, colors the aura itself with light. Cayce taught, the evolution of the human soul is directly linked to the way it acts in the face of the most defenseless life. Therefore, every time you save an animal, support a living being, respect food originating from a sacrifice, you are elevating yourself. You are returning to existence the care it has offered you since before birth. Ethics, from this perspective, is no longer a moral obligation. It becomes a reverence, a gesture of spiritual maturity in the face of the mystery of life. And then the final question awakens. Could the love we offer to animals be a practical way of loving ourselves in future or past forms? Could it be that by nurturing a smaller being, we are first and foremost nurturing the most forgotten part of our own soul? Now walk with me through one last metaphor. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the earth, seen from very, very far away, from spiritual space perhaps, not just as a planet, but as a great stage where billions of entities dance. That's what Cayce saw, a dance. A cosmic ballet of souls at different points of learning, taking on varied forms to teach, help, provoke, and heal each other. The child is born, grows, becomes a mother, then an old woman. The dog accompanies her with the same loving spirit from childhood until the end. But when it dies, it is the dog that reincarnates first and comes back to life as the grandchild she will see born. A perfect cycle. Souls that ascend and descend, that switch places, that alternate functions. Because the most beautiful thing is to know that all of us within the divine code have already been what we today judge to be other. You weren't born human by chance, just as you won't be human forever. Cayce insisted in his readings that souls transit like clouds, they absorb, release, and transform. He saw the universe as a great laboratory where the only eternally important matter is love. And love is taught in particular ways, sometimes through pain, sometimes through silence. Sometimes it wears human skin, but other times it comes in the form of a wagging tail or a meow on a cold night. The dance of souls, according to Cayce, is collective. No soul evolves alone. All are intertwined in a gigantic flow of purpose, where every gesture of affection alters the destiny of many. It's beautiful to think that the animal now sleeping at your feet or purring on the sofa is, at this very moment, connecting you to the eternal mystery of creation. It's not just there to keep you company, it's there because your soul asked for it. And on the other side, it's soul accepted. Emotions surface because the spirit recognizes the truth, even before the mind processes it. And if you felt something here, now it's a sign that your inner layers are ready to remember. To remember that we are all travelers between forms, traveling companions. Cosmic siblings on a journey that mixes the sacred and the simple. In practice, this means that the suffering of a fish at the bottom of the ocean invisibly affects the destiny of the stars. That the smile of a dog at an adoption shelter changes the emotional frequencies of the entire neighborhood. Because everything resonates, everything vibrates, everything, absolutely everything, dances together. Now remember, go back to the beginning, to that look, you know which one. The look of your pet, the one that captivated you one day. The one that seemed to carry more meaning than words could ever contain. Do you still doubt it? Is it really a coincidence? The next time you look into the eyes of an animal, any animal, allow yourself to linger a second longer. A moment of silence, eyes to eyes. And don't ask with words. Ask with your heart. Who are you? Where do you come from? And maybe if you listen with your soul, its soul will also hear. Raise your sensitivity. Elevate your compassion. Stop seeing animals as inferior or servants. Start seeing them for what they are, living manifestations of the Spirit, temporary incarnations of divine intelligence, teachers of love without vanity, emotional healers on 4 paws, 2 wings, or even hidden under scales and fur. Embrace this new way of seeing, this new way of listening. And remember, all your actions create invisible bridges between today and eternity. The love you offer echoes through time. The soul you care for may be the same one that will lift you up in your moment of greatest challenge. We are one with the whole. And when we look at this whole with awakened eyes, every leaf, every animal, every being becomes a mirror that reflects the complexity and at the same time the simplicity of love. If this video touched something alive within you, if it awakened memories, sensations, shivers, longing, share your story in the comments. Tell me which animal changed your existence. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey with me. Like, share, but above all, never see life as you did before. Because now you remember. And maybe, just maybe, the one living with you, lying at your feet at this very moment, is the first to tell you, I've always been here, in all lives, waiting for you to remember. Thank you for walking with me this far. See you at the next portal.